Dustin Mack. It's been a minute since we met on the luxury yacht liner of our mutual friend Jeff Mendez. He was hosting a mastermind.
That was a good time.
Flew in via private jet and appear on the deck and meet a bunch of new people. You were one of them, and it was great to meet you. And it was also great to the reason I parachuted into that deal was I was really excited to kind of meet some of the people that I consider to be sort of the OG group of people that really made it big in solar, got it started, and that all started from Salt Lake and Vivint. So I got a chance to meet you, and I was intrigued by your background, and we kind of continued a conversation that led to you coming here. But what was it like coming from what I call the sort of the DNA of D2D?
I feel super blessed about it. Yeah. The reason I actually told my wife the other day, I said, I'm so grateful that I went on that trip. And it's been in fruition more and more about how proximity is power and how developing relationships. Because at the time, I came to just, get to know people. I was friends with Jeff, and I was, hanging out with him and hanging out with the group. And I didn't have any intentions of I'm going to work, I'm going to go find a job today, or I'm going to find my next opportunity. And that's why it's so cool to just approach life in a way of relationships. And you just never know. The past few opportunities I've had have come from past experiences and past relationships that I've built.
That's what they call a career.
Yeah, and it's so true. We get caught up in the now, and we get caught up in the emotions of things. And if any advice to anybody is don't get caught up in that. You never know. You just never know. But kind of going back, saying blessed, I was surrounded by. If you look at there's thousands of solar companies, thousands of alarm companies out there, and different companies, and there's so many owners that come from the Vivint tree. Yeah. And I asked myself why, what was the thing? The biggest thing that I've been trying to implement here is kind of what I've learned. And one thing they were incredible at is they had an amazing culture, and the culture wasn't just we hang out, but it was almost this tribe, like a cult aspect, right? Where you walk down the street and you knew that's a Vivint guy. Yeah. The hat, the shirt, the branded swag, even their swagger. Yeah. The swagger. So people would want to work for us just because they want to be a part of that group, right? We all won together. We'd celebrate together. We go on trips together. And it was such a unique, incredible opportunity for me to be surrounded by those people. And I think when it came to the end of my time at Vivint, it was, it was hard to leave and so on and so forth. But I am so grateful for the opportunity to have learned. And like I said, you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. You surround yourself with people that have the same aspirations. They kind of piss you off a little bit, right? You're kind of competitive and driven by them. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool looking back, because at the time you don't appreciate it. But looking back, I'm like, man, I am so lucky. All this knowledge in my brain, I didn't create it, right? I got it from all these amazing individuals that I've run into, and people like you. I'm here. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and it's been a journey. Right? From Vivint, I went and did a dealer program in San Diego, and I tried my first attempt at taking what I learned there and putting it in. I failed. One of my biggest
that'll teach you some.
Yeah, one of my biggest gratitude things. I've actually failed a lot, and I've put my heart into something, right? And I didn't do this part, or I didn't do this part, but I have the template, right? I have this perfect template of what this organization can look like, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like those implementations are actually happening here. I feel like I have the autonomy and the trust from individuals like you. Yeah. You trusted me to come here, right?
Yeah, well, and the lessons that you're talking about were things that were, items that interested me about your background and your experience. SunSolar Solutions, we had a culture, but it was organic from the standpoint we were this merry band of men who came together in 2015, and the three founders, me and Troy are ADD and Val is OCD, right? We're going to sell the holy crap out of this, and right. Val's going to make sure it goes absolutely smooth. We're going to have a delighted customer, even though we weren't an installer at the time. Val's over at our installer, managing them, from the inside out, and creating this culture that we're going to sell it, and then it's going to be done right, and we're going to have customers who love it, and then we're going to figure out how to sell as much of this in a year as we possibly can. And I was talking about that from SolarCon last year, is that can you find a vehicle that really goes 250 miles an hour around the track? People ask me, how do you sell 2.5 million watts of solar a year, year after year after year? What's going on there? And what I sort of came out about at SolarCon was, I've been happy letting people think, wow, I just must be that good of a salesman. Troy must be that good of a salesman. Let's face it, it's too much of a coincidence that you'd have me and Troy at the same company selling 2.5 times what's considered baller status. But we sort of built the culture around those two core things. Like, we know how to sell this. And once we sell it, we know it's going to be delivered right, happy customer, all the stuff. And we're going to be telling the truth. Like, there's 2 or 3 things every solar sales guy would kind of like to leave out of a proposal, what is this warranty? What does it not cover? Okay, what's my bill really going to be if I go solar? Like, is it going to be $2 or $100 or somewhere in between? Like, let's be honest. Are we going to say that to the customer? So we really kind of built that thing. We're going to be super honest, kind of when it's not on our own benefit. The customer's going to know what it's going to do. We're going to make sure it does it. And then, we're going to sell, so many of these a week. Everyone's like, what the heck's going on over there? So, but we really were missing, like, Val's working so hard. Troy and I are in a house 20 hours a day. Like, what do you mean culture?
You have time to even think about that.
What do you mean about culture? We do Christmas parties. We take one day off a year to have a Christmas party. Is that culture? I don't know.
Right.
So we never actually had a conscious thought.
Right.
And because of that, we tried to replicate the success by saying, hey, you could be this successful if you do what Troy and I are doing. And we managed to find like a half a dozen to a dozen guys that end up doing that, but we could not really replicate that at scale. And massive amounts of disappointment because most folks are just not able to work like they have a W-2 job, like they have an hourly or a salary with a supervisor when they're 1099 and independent contractor. It's that rare guy that gets it, that says, and when I'm recruiting folks, in a few minutes, I'll start the group interview that we do every week. And one of the things I tell them, most people aren't naturally successful when there's nobody watching the clock.
Yep. Self-discipline.
Bro, it's 8:15 and you're just rolling in the door. What the heck? What's going on here? Tomorrow we're writing you up. 3rd day you're fired. Yeah. If you don't have that boss, it's hard to just get into the mindset where I got to go to work every day, got to make the donuts every day, especially if you're making like a lot of money.
Yeah, get complacent.
More than you needed. You're like, well, I don't feel any fire under my ass. Like my bills are paid, paid off the credit cards already. I don't know what to do. So there's a lot of ways you can get going in solar. So what we were really missing was the culture that people want to come to work for when they're not necessarily maniacal yet. I hope they all get maniacal.
Right.
Decide they want to create generational wealth, whatever. But in the meantime, we just need to be able to grow at scale. And we were kind of missing that part of how do you get non-W-2 people to come to an office and then come to their turf, come to the thing, come to the trainings, come to the stuff. How do we get them to show up and put in a full day's work? We just couldn't figure out the thing unless we found maniacs. And there's a big difference between everybody in the world and a maniac. You can't have a company full of maniacs. So that's one of the things that attracted me to your experience. I knew a lot about what Vivint was able to do. They're able to recruit folks, like all kinds of folks.
Yeah, develop them. Yeah, totally.
Develop them, get them interested, and provide a structure, all in that independent contractor framework where they work more than somebody who is being watched on a call.
And the reason why, I actually shared this earlier, but the main reason why is I had this exact experience. My first summer was not with Vivint. I came in and I went to Hawaii. That's where I wanted to go because it's Hawaii. I wanted to go there. I'm 20. Okay, I'm 21. I'm like, let's go to Hawaii, right? And I ended up being the top rookie in the entire company. And I sold like 93 accounts, which is like, yeah, great. And at the time, I'm like, I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I decided next year to go to Vivint, and I went to Wyoming. So I went from Hawaii to Wyoming. And it was crazy, just the paradigm shift that you have from one company to another. The bottom number, the average, like to be great, wasn't 1 a day. It was 3 a day. It was 4 a day, right? And so that was like the first shock for me, where it was like, the culture is everything. It's not the parties and the fun times. It's the winning aspect. Like it's expect. Like I didn't want to show up to the meeting if I didn't have 2, right? I didn't even want to show up because I was embarrassed.
Yep.
So, and that goes to accountability. It's like you're held accountable to a standard, right? And if you don't hit the standard, you're embarrassed. It's not because you're worried about clocking in. I'll work 50 hours in a day, in a 24-hour day, right? It's not possible, but my point of it is like, it was the bar was raised, and that's what we already had here. We have Golden Door winner, we have Michael O'Donnell, Troy, we have all these individuals that are selling a lot. How do we get the bar on the bottom to be raised, right? And that was the biggest difference between company A and company B. Yeah,
experience for everybody.
Exactly. Like we hold accountability meetings here every single day. We hold meetings that people are like, why do we have to show up to the meeting? And the reason is I want you to show up the day after you got 0. I want you to. I want you to feel the embarrassment because I promise nothing drives a person more than having to show up to the next meeting without a 0. You'll work later, right? You'll work later because I don't want to show up. I can't be that one guy. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to shift is the expectation is not like, it's no longer cool to sell 1 a month. It's no longer cool to sell 2 a month.
Well, now I know your secret, so I think we'll keep you around for a while, but I found out the secret. You just take the name of the company, you take all the vowels out. Now you have culture.
Yeah, SNSLR.
So SNSLR, that's our core SunSolar corporate team. You're leading that team. There's more to it, I guess, to having that company spirit and the culture. What are some of the components? And you're building that. It's happening. I see it. And what are some of the thoughts and things you're trying to build?
Yeah, so the first thing is consistency. So as a manager or as a leader, a lot of the times you have this idea and you're like, okay, I want to build this perfect structure. We're going to do culture nights. We're going to do this. And this is where I failed before. I had these ideas in the past and I failed because of the one thing, and that's consistency. No matter what, your brand, right? We're running this meeting, right? Every Tuesday, as a rep, this is reliable. At 9:30 sharp, I'm getting training. Every 3rd Wednesday of every month, we're gonna have a culture night, right? Every first Saturday of the month, we're gonna go knock with everybody. And it's not about like, I can have all these cool ideas and right, like changing brand and getting the logos. It matters a little bit, but if you told them you're gonna do it, you better as hell do it, right? And that was probably the biggest shift, and the thing that I'm trying to create here is the consistent. When I'm a rep, I know exactly, because I think that one of the things I lacked in the past was planning, right? And projecting myself into the future. I think we're all naturally built like, let's react. I'm really good at reacting at something. And we're just a bunch of reactors, right? Yeah. Oh, this happened, let me fix it. Oh, let me fix that, blah, blah, blah. And Jeff Mendez, right? He's live life by design. And it really stuck to me where it's like, the more we can plan, the more we can prepare for, things don't just come up out of nowhere, right? And when we can be consistent and we have these programs that reps know this is what I'm doing, even if you don't show up, rep, we're doing it still, right? Every single week. I don't care if we're gonna have one person in the room. We're doing that meeting because I promised myself, and this is the plan that I made, and I'm gonna stick to my word. And so a lot of the different things we're implementing are, culture nights. That's a fun activity where we all get together. It's a recruiting event. We have a watch club that if you're the top recruiter, you start off with a Nixon Rolex, and if you do it 5 months consistently, you're all the way in a Rolex. So sorry, did I start off with a Nixon? You start off with
I know guys who are killing themselves.
Yeah, so
like, whoa.
Start off with a Nixon.
Rolex has a Nixon now? Rolex? I didn't know that.
So you start off with a Nixon watch.
Yeah.
It's a solar watch, pretty cool watch. I wear it all the time. And then you progress, to a SOT, to a tag, to a so on and so forth, all the way up to a Rolex.
Someday,
but I believe internal recruiting is really important. But why would a rep? I think it's annoying when we bring reps in and like we bring them to these meetings and it's like, okay, what did I get? Like it was a meeting. I want them to experience the culture, the people we have, right? I want them to feel like a family. And so I'm really big on the culture night. Like I said, the meetings are really important. The biggest thing that I wanted to implement is vision, right? Why does a rep like, a guy that has all the talent in the world, why does he stay with us, right? It's not the money, right? It's not the cool truck he gets to drive.
Where's that road?
Right? It's the vision. It's like, can he project himself 5 years from now and say, wow, I'm gonna really accomplish something that wasn't just money. I'm gonna be a part of something. I have a seat at the table. And so I think the biggest thing to bring with any organization is vision, right? How am I gonna let my reps know?
And how has your experience with building teams and incorporating culture, creating culture, how is that mixed with SunSolar and the vision that it has? And how is it evolving?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is when I first got in, there was one manager and there was 20 reps, right? And so we had a lot of different individuals that were kind of wandering here and selling. And I came in day one, and I created 4 different levels of leadership. We created the idea that we're going to be moving into different states, and those that prove
I was
themselves.
wondering what Vivint was talking about. Oh,
Yeah.
we got a new office and a new region. You're
Right.
all in the same place. How do you have a region and another office? You're all like,
Right.
what's going on over here?
Yeah, because we
Never understood the lingo.
yeah, they're being a regional, but I'm in Texas, Florida, and California, right?
Right.
Yeah, those didn't really make sense, but the idea made sense that there's growth. Like if I'm a rep, I can sit there and literally say to myself, one day I'm going to be in charge of 150 reps. I'm going to have multiple offices. I can make X amount of money, and it's laid out in front of me because I've seen other people do it. So the first thing that I did was, how do we create vision? And the biggest way we do that is by creating a path, right, for success. From day one, you're on 30 days to pro. Going on from there, you know how to become a setter, successful setter, a setter manager, a closer, an area manager, and all the way up and up and up. So point being is that's probably the biggest thing, is creating vision for my reps. And that's some of the things that I implemented day one here. So any rep that comes in, they know what they can do. They know how to succeed. So.
And you couple that with what SunSolar is known for already, which is you really can make a 7-figure income.
It's proven.
Doing that over and over and over again. And as I recruit people into this, I'm really careful. Like, 20% of the people that work for SunSolar make over $500,000 a year. A handful of them make them in. Only a handful.
Yeah.
60, 70 guys, only a handful will get there. So are you that kind of guy? Are you the kind of person that ends up in the top of a leaderboard? Well, that's the money you make at the top of this leaderboard. And that has that effect. Some people just have a way. The way they think. I always seem to be, in my baseball career, in Little League career, football career, I was always one of the awesome guys on the team. But for some reason, I never saw myself as that top guy. I was always the second or the third.
It's because you're like 5'7" like me, right?
I'm
5'10", but seriously.
120 pounds.
Yeah, but
if I weighed what I weigh now, I'd have been
linebacker.
maybe number one. Yeah. But that mentality of seeing yourself in a position and so if you don't see yourself as the franchise player, but you're doing well enough to be in the second or third slot in a group of guys that the middle of that pack's at $750,000. That's a good place to hang out and end 100%. Up in that pack.
Well, a lot of companies, they claim like, oh, you can make $1 million, but they have nobody making $1 million. That's one thing here, is that respect is given to those that have done it before. It's easy for me to stand up in the room and go knock doors. I've knocked doors. I've knocked more doors than you, right? I've done it before. You can tell people this is how you make a 7-figure income because I've done it, right? And we have so many of those individuals here that have made $1 million. And it sparks the light in the people's brains where it's like, I can be like that. But we also have individuals.
It's not a unicorn.
It's not. We have them here. We're sitting next to them.
That's in the midst of doing it.
Exactly. And so we have those here. We already had all the pieces here. That's the cool thing. Like, it's not like I came in and changed the world. Like, we already had a freaking fast vehicle. We already had something moving. I just add a little, flair to it, right? And I think that's, for any rep, whether your aspirations are to be a setter manager or the best closer, we have those people here. We have a rep now that was a closer. He was, doing 4 or 5 a month. Now he's leading our best team, and he's learned how to train, and he's learned how to be a leader. And now not only that, but he's tripled his production, right? So it doesn't matter what your background is or where you come from or what level you are. There's a place for you in any level, and there's training for you in any level, and there's support in every level.
I had a lot of fun talking about that, and then sort of coming clean at SolarCon in my keynote talk about, how do you sell $2.5 million? I guess you just got to be amazing, right? Sure, go ahead, put me on your podcast. I am that amazing. But the reality is, I don't know if I really understood it at the beginning. I didn't know how lucky I was that I sort of stumbled into my solar gig, which became SunSolar Solutions, and I had no idea that we were doing it really differently because we just kind of did it. We got 3 individuals who were putting it together. We got Val at the helm, kind of building this car around 2 guys that could really do it. I didn't know he was sort of building a vehicle that would enable, those types of drivers to go that fast. But I don't know everyone else was not.
No,
and so when I go to the first, my daughter Katie was with me. We go to the first door-to-door con, and I don't know. We went after a deadline. We sold a bunch of solar and added it up, and it was 2.56, and the whole world's trying to get to 1 megawatt, and Troy and I are well over 2.5. what's going on there? It's like, oh, maybe I'm that amazing. I love where you're
I'm
at
grateful to be
now,
here.
And I'm looking forward to where we're going.
Yep. So grateful to be here, Mike.
And great to be on this road with you on this team. Thank you very much, Dustin.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.